Hi, everyone, and welcome to the first installment of Mundane Mondays. I really love astrology. I'm not an astrologer, but I like to look at the patterns and see how they work with whatever's happening with my own astrology. And so I'm going to offer every Monday a little bit of a sneak peek at the major astrological influences that are affecting us all. So I I need to also give credit to the astrologers that I do follow. The two main ones that I really enjoy are Michelle Knight Astrology, as well as Robert Wilkinson, who has a site called Aquarius Papers. He is my personal favorite when it comes to global astrology. I've been reading his materials for at least 10 years and find him extremely insightful, even though I don't really understand most of the stuff that he talks about in his articles, because he is speaking directly to astrologers for the most part. But the themes are rich and dynamic and a little different than what we're used to seeing in traditional horoscopes and astrology out there. So the first thing that I want to talk about for this week, June 4th, technically yesterday, Mars entered Cancer. So when the planets change signs, it changes the dynamics of the energies, the weather, the energetic weather. And with all of this change that we're all processing after a very confusing May, and now we're coming into June with a little bit of a better idea as to what's happening. As a result of that, we're now able to start taking steps towards something new. So Mars in Cancer supports that in a really nice way. It helps us to take the initiative in a sensitive way to bring a new understanding, usually around the family, because Cancer is at most at home and with their most immediate family, their closest, tightest connections. This particular move, in tandem with other things, is pointing us into reorienting our families in a new direction. So perhaps family dynamics have been challenging. I mean, who doesn't have challenges with family? We all try to be perfect, but it doesn't necessarily work out that way. And so sometimes we have to course correct and change our tack. And so Mars in Cancer is really going to support this in a really, really good way for all of us. It's also paving the way for what some astrologers refer to as like a planetary party. So later on this month, June 21st to be exact, which is the solstice, there's going to be a party of planets in Cancer. So we're going to be really in this Cancer nurturing kind of flow, which is a real relief. I also have Scorpio rising, so I resonate really well with Cancer dynamics or other water sign dynamics. Okay, so the next thing that I noticed was June 6th, we have two things happening, two planets moving into the signs that they're the rulers of. So this is good. This means that we can lean into the dynamics of both Gemini and Taurus and know that it's in its best place. Mercury is in Gemini, which is where it wants to be. Venus is in Taurus, which is also where it wants to be. So what's this doing for us? Well, with Mercury entering Gemini, that enhances communication across the board. Makes it really clear, chatty. It's optimum conditions for communication for every sign. Venus entering Taurus, it means that relationships, values, all of those things that are within that Venus place. Also, for me, I really appreciate Venus's influence in global consciousness. So our ideas about our relationships are getting grounded. Our ideas about our consciousness and our place in the world are getting grounded somewhere new. And it brings us out of the fog of May, which was necessary to understand that we didn't have clarity on something. Sometimes it isn't until we're really frustrated by something that we're actually forced to pay attention to it. And so with all those things that we've learned through sorting through the confusion, we're now able to take steps to make it happen. On June 9th, again, two things happening. The first thing is that Jupiter is going direct in Libra. Now, when Jupiter is in retrograde, obviously it's not, that lucky influence or that expansive influence. It's more of a contraction and restriction. And so, but there's purpose in that. So when we're restricted or held back, sometimes it's because we're still processing something that we need to integrate before we can move forward. So relationships are moving forward, which is a good thing. And all of the other influences are supporting the same thing. And these are relationships of all kind, but probably more so on the more personal side as opposed to professional. But there could be some blending of both of those energies, as I've been noticing in other aspects, which we'll get to later in the month. What else do we have? Oh, right. Okay. So, and the final bit of news is TGIF. If you do not have plans for Friday to party and have fun with your friends, I suggest you start right now, because this is going to be the best full moon in order to really let loose for a while. We had full moon in Scorpio last month, which made everything very intense, pushed a lot of stuff to the surface, forced us to go very deep. And then this month we've got Sagittarius, which Sagittarius for me is the penultimate person who walks into a party and puts a lampshade on their head and starts running around. So that's likely, if you see somebody doing that this weekend, they're likely a Sagittarius. They're really going to be in their element this Friday night. On a deeper level, the full moon in Sagittarius suggests that we can be optimistic. We can embrace change a little more gracefully if we're not thinking so much about it. And it also provides this healing and transformation that leads to inspired thinking. So we get into this idealistic brainstorming space where we can become inspired. And we've got a little while to do that. We're not going to have to necessarily anchor too much of that until we head into July and August. So right now, let yourself just riff off and indulge things that seem totally unrealistic. There will be plenty of time for sustainable, inspired ideas to show themselves as being something that you can put your energy into. And anything that isn't going to be sustained likely will just be a part of the fun of opening your mind to ideas and to possibilities. So there's going to be some challenging stuff in July. The rest of June is really going to be more about the watery energies around Cancer. And like I said, each Monday I'll get a little bit more detailed about what's coming. But I don't want to blow too much of what's happening that third week before I get a chance to actually look into more details for you. So thanks for joining me. Thanks for your subscribe so far. I'm so appreciative of you joining me here on my channel. And I'll have a lot of news as to more things that I'll be offering here for you to follow along with me and to gain some insight into your own process. So again, thanks very much and stay in the love.